into the military service?
Um, my, I first joined Hawaii National Guard. I got into a MP unit, went off to my 6 months active duty, went to military police school. My idea was to join the National Guard and stay out of Vietnam. I did not want to go to Vietnam at all. I came back from my 6 months active duty. They enrolled me in officer candidate school and there in Hawaii. And a couple years went by, and I was with the National Guard, and they did little or no training, which scared me. And we got put on red alert at one point where we were going to meetings every weekend, all weekend long, and they told us they were going to take us to Vietnam. And I'd been to summer camp with these guys, and I knew they weren't. I thought they'd take the whole unit to Vietnam, and I was afraid to go into battle with them. Well, I dropped out of the officer candidate school, and I stopped going to meetings because I knew that they would draft me, and that's basically what happened. I got drafted. When I got sent back to Fort Ord, the sub-sergeant was interviewing me. He said, do you want to be in the military police? And I said, no, not really. He said, well, then you're going to have to go to basic training again. So I did. I did basic training twice, and not many people can say that.
And this is the Army?
This is the Army. Yeah. Both times I was a platoon sergeant in basic training, so it wasn't that bad. Acting platoon sergeant. Then I went to Fort Rooker, Alabama. Went to crew chief school. And from there, went straight to Vietnam. I still didn't want to go to Vietnam. That was my whole thing. I didn't want to go to Vietnam. I was a surfer, that's all I could think about was surfing. And I got over there, like I told you earlier, I stepped off the plane in Tan Son Nhut, and they were putting coffins on. As I was getting off, I could see this row of coffins going on the plane. Now, something clicked in my head, this is for real. If you screw up, you're going to die. And my whole outlook on the war and everything changed immediately. When I finally got to this is a strange story. I was in a reception center where basically you stay there for 2 days and you get sent off to your unit. I was there for 4 days, going on 5 days, and the rest of the guys that were there with me were gone to their units. And they came and they said, the sergeant wants to see you. It's nighttime, it's pitch black, there's no moon out. And this guy took me out to this tent was a surreal experience. And there's this sergeant major sitting in this tent, all by him. He had his desk set up, and we could see off in the distance, I could see flashes going off, artillery flashes or bombs or whatever it was. And I sat down with the sergeant, and he started asking me political questions. And I thought this was really strange. And I talked to him for about an hour. And he said, okay, that'll do. He said, you've got national security clearance. I said, national. Off I went. Next day I got sent to my unit. I was there in my unit for about a month before I was approached by the flight crew to join the flight crew.
Do you remember where was the unit located?
In Vinh Long, right in the middle of the Mekong Delta. And everything's working fine. That's good.
So you were at Vinh Long at this point?
I was at Vinh Long.
The unit, or?
Yeah, I was the 611th Transportation Company. The battalion I was with was 765th Transportation Battalion. What we did is we had a huge hangar, could accommodate 8 to 10 helicopters at a time. We fixed everybody else's helicopters in that area. And Vinh Long was a good-sized airfield. We had a lot of helicopters units there, and we fixed everybody's. The other crew chiefs in these units never even did like the 25-hour inspection. They didn't even change the oil. And in my case, I had to do everything. I mean, I've pulled engines, pulled transmissions, put on new blades. I've done everything you could think of on a helicopter.
These were Hueys?
Hueys, yeah. And I remember in helicopter school, one of the instructors saying, you know, this isn't like a car. You can't pull over to the side of the road if you have a problem and fix it. Well, I made damn sure my helicopter was in top condition. I was a good crew chief. I was one of the best crew chiefs. They used to tell me that. The warrant officers say, Mugford's a good crew chief. Our best crew chief. Our main job was to pick up helicopters that had been shot down or had engine failure or whatever. We went out and got them. A lot of times we'd go out and just get the miniguns off the helicopters. And we'd go in under, sometimes there'd nothing to be happening. We'd have American forces around and gunships flying around, and it was secure areas. Other times it wasn't. Other times there were people shooting at me while I was trying to make the hook up to the Chinook to get the helicopter off the ground. Matter of fact, that was more often than not.
So you'd fly out on the Chinook?
No, I flew out in the Huey.
Okay.
We flew out with 3 riggers, 2 guys on the guns, and 2 pilots. And a lot of times we'd be opening manuals. One time we had to go out and get an engine that was an experimental engine on a Chinook that had been shot down. And they wanted the engine. And it was not a secure area. It was, matter of fact, we were taking fire, and there's 3 of us just taking this engine off of the mounts and everything. It was a big mess. And then we got it on a pallet, and it got drug into the Chinook, came down, drug it into the Chinook. The whole time we're taking, bullets were bouncing off the side of the helicopter we were working on. And I remember one of the guys saying, don't look up, just keep turning the nuts, just keep working. And they called in an airstrike, which was pretty cool. 2 Phantoms, the most beautiful aircraft ever made. F-4 Phantom. They came out of nowhere and dropped napalm on these guys, and they stopped shooting at us for a little while.
How often did you have to go out into the field to collect an aircraft?
At least a couple times a week. But the other side of the thing is we also had, we took turns. We had 4 helicopters. We had 3 to 4 helicopters. That varied. But we'd take turns running the missions. And sometimes I got to go to Vung Tau, where our battalion headquarters was, to pick up parts or whatever. And you yourself have been to Vung Tau, and it's quite a lovely place. And we always made sure we had to spend the night there. Not only was it, we'd go downtown and stay in a hotel and actually eat some decent food. Plus, they had an Air Force base there, and the Air Force guys ate a hell of a lot better than the Army guys did. They actually had chocolate milk and ice cream. We got served warm Kool-Aid. I lost 20 pounds while I was in Vietnam.
Did you go over as an individual, or did you go over as a unit when you originally arrived?
I went over as an individual.
And left as well as an individual, actually.
As well. I left as well as an individual. And because I was from Hawaii, I didn't go through a big processing center. They just sent me right to Hawaii, and I got mustered out, is that what they call it? Mustered out of the Army and at one of the military bases there at Schofield. And
but getting back to Vietnam, do you have any other remembrances of what was life like on the base where you were? I mean, how did you...
The flight crew was, we had 8 guys in the flight crew, and we lived in a Quonset hut. We slept 8. We did everything together. We were a real tight crew. We were real concerned with each other's safety. That was that was a good thing. I mean, I'd go out and play war during the day, but I most always got home back to the base to sleep in a bed and change my uniform the next day and shower most of the time when the water was on. So it wasn't that bad of a deal being, I did sleep outside with mosquitoes and stuff like the grunts did.
What kind of entertainment, if any? I mean, how'd you keep yourself busy when you weren't flying or working?
No, there was little or no. I was a crew chief. There was no time.
So
I was always working on my helicopter. I remember one Sunday we were trying to get our helicopter ready for the next. We had a flight scheduled for Monday to go to Saigon, and we pushed the helicopter. My gunner and I pushed the helicopter into the hangar, and I forget what we had to do, but we were working on the helicopter, and there was nobody else there. Everybody else was off on Sunday. We're working. All of a sudden, mortars started dropping, and they were very close to us. We ran out of the hangar and into a bunker. And as we turned the corner into the bunker, there was a cobra stood up in the corner. He was later he measured 7 feet long. This cobra was in. So we let him have the bunker, and we took the ditch right outside the bunker. And when they came to check on us later on, and somebody went and killed the cobra, and that's what we found out. He was 7 feet long. He was big. Never liked snakes. You don't have snakes in Hawaii.
Is that true?
That's true. No snakes in Hawaii.
So you didn't keep the skin or anything?
No, I didn't want to have anything to do with it.
I'd never heard of a cobra. Well, I heard of the helicopter cobra, but not a cobra.
Yeah, well, yeah, big one too.
So what other remembrances from Vietnam do you have as far as environment or life in general or other missions?
The missions just seem to run together. I got to the point where I enjoyed them. At first it was kind of scary, but then I got to the point where I enjoyed them. I enjoyed going out. If other guys would say, well, I don't really know how to rig this, I do. I'd go. I actually got to the point one morning where I was standing on top of a helicopter putting the headset to get it out of the area. And we started taking fire, and I could see the bullets coming at me in the morning sun. And I remember just sidestepping. As they zipped by, they sounded like bumblebees as they went by, and then flipping the guys off. Finished my job, got the helicopter out of there. I could actually see the bullets coming at me. I went, wow. I'm like, we felt like we were really cocky. We were the Delta riggers. We had our own patch on, ourselves, and we were really cocky guys. Nobody ever got hurt. Nobody took any rounds. My helicopter took one round the whole time I was there, and it went right underneath my seat and stopped at the floor. Oh, I took a piece of that bulletproofing that the pilots had around them and put it under my seat. And the pilot said, that makes the helicopter too heavy. I said, well, why don't we take part of your share apart then? Let me keep this. And they didn't like it. That went. So I sat on a flak jacket.
How'd you get along with the flight crew? Did you have the same pilots typically?
Oh, yeah. We had warrant officers were our best pilots. And we had officers also that were in our company that flew. But the warrant officers were the guys that went out in the field with. And they were really good pilots. They knew their stuff. They knew their maintenance. If you had any questions, if you were pulling maintenance on your helicopter and you had any kind of questions, they knew it. They'd give you the answers. We also had civilians from Bell Helicopter there. I mean, our parts department was huge. It was to make any Napa store look like a joke. It was like a Costco. It was so big, our parts department. We had several areas where we kept parts. And this is in the middle of the Mekong Delta. I mean, I could walk up to the guy and get anything. There was a civilian that ran that. We had an engine shop there. We had civilians there. And we had civilians all from Bell Helicopter. And they were really helpful. Really helpful.
Do you remember, or have you kept in touch with any of the flight crew that you had there over the years?
A couple of the guys I've talked to over the years. But not really.
No.
Yeah.
No associations or anything that you get involved with?
When I got back to Hawaii. When I got off the plane in Hawaii, when I got home from Vietnam, I got off the plane, walked to the into the terminal. I walked right into a war protest. People started spitting on me, calling me baby killer, and hitting me with their signs. I later found out that this wasn't an unusual greeting. Many guys have told me they got greeted the same way when they came home.
That was at a regular civilian airfield when you came back. It wasn't a
Honolulu
military.
International.
Yeah. How did you find life when you got back? Was it?
I found it a little strange. It was. I was bored for years. I wanted to go back, but I didn't want to be in the military. I looked into going back as a civilian worker, but it didn't work out. So I started working as a carpenter. Eventually, I got my contractor's license and ran my own construction company.
Do you think the experiences in Vietnam changed you
A whole lot.
from when you were younger as a surfer?
Yeah,
As you described
right.
it too?
Right. I was a lot more volatile, hot-headed. I was easy to be easily annoyed and pissed off. Matter of fact, I went to the vet center because I got into Agent Orange several times and I had skin cancer all over me. And I finally went down to the vet center and said, is there anything you guys can do for me to help me? Maybe I can get some money for this. And they talked to me and they put me in touch. Therapist started talking to me. She said, would you mind taking this test for me? So I just took this little test. And then I'm talking to a psychologist all of a sudden. She's having me do a test. And I'm talking to a psychiatrist all of a sudden. And they go, you having trouble sleeping at night? I said, yeah, I am. Did you ever think of Vietnam? I said, well, yeah, pretty much. I have thoughts about it throughout the day. Those are called intrusive thoughts. You are suffering from post-traumatic stress. I'm like, what? Anyway, I'm actually 100% disabled as far as the VA is concerned at this point.
From the PTSD?
Yeah. And I still go get my skin cancer cut off.
Did they agree that was part of the Agent Orange connection?
They would not admit it. No.
How did you find family when you left versus coming back, if you had family connections still?
Yeah, my mother picked me up at the airport. I walked right up to her and she didn't recognize me. I was standing in front of her and she's looking around me. I was in jungle fatigues and she didn't recognize me for a little while. That scared me. I knew I'd changed. And my family kind of treated it like I had been on a trip to one of the outer islands or something and just come home from being away for a couple of years. And that was odd. And as I said, my mother, I had a stack of photos of the flight crew in my helicopter and all that. And my mother found them and threw them away. And I said, what happened to my photographs? I threw them away. I didn't think you should look at them. That was annoying.
I would think, yeah, it's your own personal memories. Going back to when you first entered the service, you didn't cover an awful lot, but do you remember the first day or two after you joined and going to boot camp? Or
first day or two of going into boot camp?
Yeah, the first time you joined and you were the surfer dude going into the service, not for the first time. Did it seem fine, or did you find it?
Yes. So when I was in the National Guard, I'd been going to meetings prior to going to basic training. So when they said, does anybody have any prior service experience, I raised my hand and they called me up. They made me a platoon sergeant, acting platoon sergeant. A band that could come off really easy. It was on my arm. No, my whole time in the Army, I never pulled KP. I pulled guard duty once. And the second time through basic training, I was also platoon sergeant. I was a squad leader in AIT and military police school. I was a squad leader and at helicopter school too. I never pulled KP. Huh.
You didn't want to be an MP, you were saying, but
Right.
how did you end up getting assigned to be a crew chief at Fort Rucker?
They actually gave me a choice. They looked at my test scores and they said, they asked me if I wanted to fly helicopters, and I said yes, I do. So they gave me some more tests. I passed the test, and I went before an interviewer, and he talked to me and said, "It looks like you qualify to be to go to flight school," and I was thrilled. I thought this was the best thing going. And he slid a paper over to me. He said, "Sign your name at the bottom of this, and you're off to flight school." This is right after basic training, and he said, from this day, after you sign this, you've got 5 years in the military. And we guarantee you at least 2 tours in Vietnam, maybe 3. I slid the paper back over to him and said, okay, you can go to crew chief school. You'll go to crew chief school then.
So that's how you went to the crew chief.
I was still in that mode where I really don't want to go to Vietnam, let alone 2 tours, no.
So,
When I got to the end of my tour, I had like 6 months left in the Army, and I extended. I extended for that 6 months and stayed in Vietnam. I think I got a month off from my sentence because I did that. But there was no way I could come back and do garrison duty without getting in trouble.
but when you came back, you were then out of the service.
When I came back, it was just to get out of the Army.
And that was it.
Yeah, that was a nasty deal too. I got all my medical pay. I got everything done. I needed one signature from this lieutenant. And I walked into his office. I saluted him. He looked up at me. And he goes, you guys are just coming back from Vietnam kind of pissed me off. And he started going on and on and on. He said, you really need a haircut and that mustache. I don't like it all. And I went at him. I went across the desk to grab him. And there was a sergeant standing behind him, luckily, who stopped me. MPs came in, he took me out, threatened to have me put me in the stockade unless I could behave myself. I got a haircut, went back in, saluted the lieutenant. He again went at me, trying to irritate me. I stayed calm. He signed my paper. I was out of the Army. I went home, burned my uniforms, which I wish I hadn't. Got an old garbage can. Threw everything in there and set it on fire. You couldn't tell people you'd been to Vietnam when I came home. They didn't want to hear it.
Question, yeah. Did you find it difficult to talk about it?
You couldn't talk about it. You couldn't say anything.
And you kept that way for years, or?
It was for years. It was like that. Then all of a sudden, it was kind of cool to be, and people would start saying they were in Vietnam when they weren't. And I started hanging out with Vietnam vets, even up until recently when I left Hawaii. My best friends were all Vietnam vets. This Special Forces friend, that was my closest friend. Other guy, my golf buddies were Special Forces, Airborne Rangers. And
so there's a certain bond there.
There was definitely a bond, yeah.
Did you go on R&R when you were in Vietnam?
I did. I went to Hawaii one time, which was kind of weird. Going on R&R, especially going to Hawaii, you get on an airplane, you're in Vietnam, people are shooting at you, you get on the airplane, a few hours, you fall asleep on the plane, you wake up, you're back in Hawaii. I'm back home. Somebody picks you up at the airport, and they got a surfboard for you, go out and go surfing.
Did you go surfing at R&R?
Oh yeah, it was really surreal. I also did another R&R in Kuala Lumpur, which wasn't as much fun as going to Hawaii. I was sorry, I just wasted it on Kuala Lumpur.
How far into the tour did you have your R&Rs?
I don't recall.
Yeah.
I cannot put things in chronological order.
Understand. Any other, let's say, funny stories you had from your time in the service?
I told you about the Cobra. Everything else was pretty damn serious. I mean, we had to keep the ships going. We worked long hours. The food was bad. The only thing that was good was our living conditions because the flight crew was together. And there was nothing funny about anything. It was pretty serious. We all took it serious. The whole flight crew, we all took it very seriously. We took our maintenance serious on our helicopters, and we took our missions extremely serious. Nobody went out there smoking dope or anything like that. We were very quick about our job. I kind of got a kind of a funny story. There's this black guy that was on the flight crew, Coleman was his name. Nicest looking black man I've ever seen in my life. We were the same age, same height, same weight. And our thing was being quick. We ran a lot. We'd rig the helicopter and take off running because people were shooting at you. And we'd race on the cut when we were back at the company, where everybody wanted to be the fastest. And Coleman had just smoked me every time. And one day we were out we'd rigged a Cobra, and we were standing next to it. And we saw flashes out in the tree line. And all of a sudden, thump, 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 thump above our heads. Somebody were taking fire. So we turned and we ran. We both ran around the different end of the Cobra. And as we were running, bullets were landing by our feet like in the movies. And when we got to the helicopter, our helicopter was just starting to lift off the ground. I had to reach back and grab Coleman's arm and pull him in the helicopter. I had beat him there.
Motivation.
He quit. He quit the flight crew the next day. He said, I want to be a doctor. I don't want to die out here.
People came and went at different times there.
People had come in country at different times, so there was a turnover. There was a turnover of officers, particularly company commanders. I think they only did 6 months there, and then they rotated. And there was a lot of alcoholism amongst the NCOs and with some of the officers, not so much the warrant officers, but I mean, these guys would show up to fly the aircraft, and you could tell they had a hangover. And that used to really piss me off. They'd land my helicopter hard, and that'd piss me off. I wouldn't call them sir, I'd call them by their rank. That's pretty hard landing, Major.
Did you find a difference between the warrants and the officers in that case?
Yeah, as a rule, yeah. We had a couple of officers that went with us all the time that were all right.
Do you think that was because of experience level?
It was because of experience level. Like the company commander was a pilot, had been to flight school. He had to put in so many hours to maintain this. So he'd fly us if we were going to like Saigon or going to Bung Tao. He'd fly. They weren't very good pilots. Well, have we reached a half hour yet?
You haven't?
I said have we.
Any other memories from in country when you were there? You came into Tan Son Nhut, you said, which is Saigon.
Right.
And then you went to the Delta.
Right.
Outside of that was pretty much the area you were stationed in.
I was in the Delta, yeah.
How did you rotate out? Was it on the expected day, or you said you ran a little over? I'm trying to remember what you said on that.
Well, after my tour was up, I had 6 months left in the Army, and I just extended.
So you were in country for a year? In Vietnam?
I was in country for a year and a half almost.
Okay.
There was no way I could go back and do regular garrison duty after being in Vietnam. I would have gotten in trouble. I was a smart ass. I was. I shared something funny.
And then you flew back out of Tan Son Nhut again when you went home on a civilian aircraft, or? Yeah,
they were all civilian aircrafts. Braniff Airlines, remember Braniff? With the purple and pink planes and the girls with the paisley leotard or whatever the hell it was. It was pretty interesting.
Do you remember the flight home at all?
I remember sleeping. Sleep was something that we didn't get that much of. We got mortared a lot, rocketed when we were on our airfield did.
Did you have feelings when you were leaving? Do you recall any emotions when you were leaving country?
Yeah, I really didn't want to leave the guys there. At that time, it seemed we were winning the war when I left in '69. It seemed like we were winning the war. We had the VC on the run. Things were starting to calm down. We weren't getting mortared quite as much, but I was worried about the guys I was leaving because we kept rotating. People kept rotating, and pretty soon I'm the guy that's been there the longest, and I know more about rigging helicopters than anybody else. And I wasn't sure about leaving them to do this by themselves. I went on a mission the day before I left because there was a helicopter that was stuck on the side of a mountain, and they were going, I don't know how we're going to get this out of here. And I said, I'll go help you guys out. I went on a mission, and they were shooting at us the whole time we were rigging this thing. We got it off the side of the mountain. Got out of there. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got shot.
How do you feel that the war in general, as life progressed years after the war, has it affected how you approach life or your thoughts about?
I think Americans are war hungry, warmongers. We don't have to be in Iraq, and Afghanistan blows my mind that we're even there. I mean, we didn't learn a lesson from watching the Russians. It's an unwinnable war. Any war is unwinnable. You come to my backyard and start fighting, I'm going to have my son and my nephews with guns, and you won't see us. We will shoot at your helicopters, your planes, your personnel. You can't win a war in somebody's backyard. Eventually, they will get you.
Do you find that you're calmer or less calm after the war? Or
No, not at all. I got arrested a few months ago. There was a guy up on the street. He had a sign that said, "Chief Sturgis is a lawless pimp." And what had happened, the guy had been cheating in the casino, and they threw him out. So he stood just outside of our car, and I was driving down to the tribal office, and I saw this. I pulled over, and I walked up and read his sign, and it really irritated me. I started chasing him up and down the street, and they have cameras. The place is cameraed, so it's all caught on film. And the Montville police came, the Norwich police came, the tribal police came, the state police came, and I got taken away in handcuffs because I was the aggressive one.
Do you think that's on some level a result of your experience in the military?
I know it is. But I went off. The guy said something, I don't even remember what he said. He said something derogatory to me. And that was it, man. I just wanted to get my hands on him. There's pictures of me chasing him up and down the sidewalk there. I was asked just the other day if I'd like to see the film by our security guy that works for the tribe. And I said, no, I really don't want to see him. He said, you should. They're funny. They're funny.
I think, is there anything else you'd like to add to your interview from your experiences?
No, like I said, everything the whole Vietnam experience is it's not that it's foggy. I can remember certain things, but I couldn't put things in chronological order. The first time I took my helicopter, they said, Mugford, here's your helicopter. I was a gunner. We got a new helicopter in the company, and the crew chief I've been working with got shot from friendly fire. We're being attacked I think a jet came by or something, and he stepped out of the bunker to take a look at the jet and caught a round. So I got bumped up to crew chief. And then we got a new helicopter and said, here's your helicopter. I went out there. I was going through the paperwork, and I didn't even have guns assigned to me. And two guys came out and they said, we've been told we could use this helicopter to go pick up some parts for our helicopter. That was fine with me. So we went for basically what I thought was a test flight. We picked up their parts, got back in the helicopter, and on our way back to Vinh Long, we heard on the radio, we heard this big battle going on, and a Cobra just went down, had been shot down. And they didn't even think about it. They just spun right around and went right back into this mess. And we went down and we picked up the two pilots that are down. They were only on the ground for a few minutes, and we were there. And there was this huge battle going on. What it turned out to be is that it was on top of a VC underground hospital. And as we took, like I said, I didn't even have guns assigned to me. As we took off, I looked down, I could see American troops, I could see Vietnamese troops, I could see the bad guys, I could see they had a mercenary that would fight with it that looked like they'd come off they looked like Chinese pirates or something. And these guys were there, and you couldn't even tell who you were supposed to shoot at. And they gave us a medal for that. They gave the pilots put in for medals, and they got a bronze star for that. And I remember when they gave it to me, we were lined up, they gave me the medal, and they dismissed us. I walked by a garbage can and threw it in the garbage can. Went back down to the hangar to work on my helicopter. This was months later, after the incident.
Why do you feel you did that?
Because of the way the medals got passed out. They actually would say, okay, you're allocated so many medals per battalion or company. And that's how they gave them out. And the guys that wanted them were the lifers. And I really didn't care. I had a job to do. That's what I was there for. Do my job, stay alive.
It sounds like you did it well.
I did a good job.
Anything else?
No.
You're all set?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to thank you for your service.
Thank you. For yours.
Thank you.